So for me, I think the most kind of traumatic experience in my life was when my father passed away when I was 11 years old. It was 1991, 1st of April. And I think that for me was my first introduction to pain and trauma. Pain, when it comes through trauma, is different. There's no quick solution. And I searched for many years as a young boy going into my teenage years for that paracetamol, for that pain relief, and I couldn't find it.
So I think for me the first trigger and the pain was relating to growing up in a South West London council estate. I wasn't particularly tough, but I was brought into gang culture with my local peers who all used various drugs, Class A drugs, Class B drugs, so cocaine, ecstasy, LSD, cannabis, vast amount of alcohol, amphetamines, etc. And for me it was a sense of fitting in, a sense of protection. If I was identified with a gang, then I was at less risk from other experiences, and I had various threat to life experiences, which led me to a sense of trying to want to belong.
Heroin had become quite popular, and I remember one of the older boys who took me under his wing, he asked if I wanted to take some heroin one night, and I said yeah, because I just wanted to make him happy. There was that mutual respect. I looked at him like an older brother, I didn't want to let him down. He was about to inject me with this heroin, and at the time police had kicked the door down and everybody ran away, they dispersed, and I remember just running off and having nowhere to go, so I went back to my grandma's house. The police came and I thought, oh, here we go, I'm going to get arrested. But that wasn't the case. He brought a piece of paper where they tested the potency of the injection they'd found in the house, and he said, but the percentage of that heroin which was about to be injected into my arm would have killed me imminently. And that was a wake-up call for me.
Taking drugs was a way of making the most of my last days, and I didn't actually see me getting through this. I saw this as my last dance, as it were. So I was using drugs just to make the most of my last few years, because somewhere the shame and stigma was subconsciously fueling towards me ending my life.
The children's home was very dangerous at the time, and some of the older boys who I was kind of mixing with at the time as well said, look, you need to get out of that. And that was the paradox of a children's home. It was that supposed to keep you safe, yet I was surrounded by danger. Then I found myself homeless, which is, imagine saying that now, 11, 12 years old, you're homeless. You would think it would never happen, but it did.
But what I also didn't know is I had an undiagnosed mental health condition, a significant one, bipolar affective disorder. But whereas my friends were flying off to Ibiza, a year down the line my girlfriend left me, and unfortunately I became unwell. It led to a deep, dark clinical depression and psychosis, which led to my first admission to a psychiatric ward against my will.
You know, everyone has a moment, don't they? I think they call it that. It's a pinnacle point in life where it's, you go that way and you carry on down that trajectory and you end up dead, or you take this as a big lesson in life and you do something with it. You turn it into you turn that adversity into an advantage. She got on the phone, he put the boxing coach on the phone, and he said, be here at 6 p.m. tomorrow, and if you're not, you're not. If you are, you are. And I turned up, and then I was there for the next bloody 7 years of my life. All the boys in the gym were exactly like me. They'd come from the same background, and then so I was going into a world which was similar, but still not filled with drugs and drink. But there was another way to exert that energy.
So for me, the catalyst was one of fear and desperation, of not wanting to suffer so much as I was, but also a magic moment, a moment of grace, because I had the opportunity to go along and meet with a drug counselling agency, actually to receive help, because I wanted help. I didn't want to start using drugs again because I'd had enough of the torturous experiences and the psychological distress. Steve, the manager of the agency, basically said, would you like to work with us? We can train you up, you can work in this agency. Now, I've been told by several medical professionals I'll never work again. This guy's going to let me loose on the public, train me as a therapist. So I found suddenly a moment that I could redefine my experiences.
We got married rather quickly, me and Andrula, my wife. We bought a house, we had a baby. But again, a positive role model. She said, a bad workman blames his tools for doing a bad job. Your tools is your past. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't get where you're going with this. And she went, well, you need to go back into the system and help with people like you. Boom, and that was it. That was a powerful moment.
For me, I was actually very fortunate. You know, when I was in hospital in those turbulent and traumatic times, I had my family that never turned their back on me, that would visit me. My sisters, my dad would visit me every day after work. My mum, even though she struggled with her mental health and leaving the house, had come to visit me. I had friends that I thought would have rejected me come and see me, and I was so grateful because there are others that didn't have that fortune.
I started to make comparisons about my own experience and what I was experiencing in my new career. The first book is Damaged, which is a memoir of my life, and then the second one is The State of It, which is more about the political part of the care system, the backstage, the bureaucracy. But yeah, the book changed my life completely because it gave, you know, I'd gone from there to there where I was doing TV interviews, radio interviews, traveling the country, speaking at conferences. So that's been the catalyst of the work as well, using my own personal experience as an example of what is possible when you put a safety net around vulnerable people. They can create great things. And it's just come from strength to strength.
So I went along and I found an opportunity to work in an NHS trust, the very NHS trust where I was a service user as a young man. So I spent 8 years working in a drug service, helping people break the cycle of drug use and social exclusion. Now I'm working on psychiatric wards, helping people with mental health conditions come to terms with it and get out of the wards and develop a meaningful life. So life after a recovery, what does that look like? Well, first of all, for me, it's understanding that recovery is not a finite destination. Recovery is something that I've learned is something that I'll be managing my entire life. And when we ask our service users as well, what does recovery mean to them? It's rarely medical treatment or therapy. It's home, job, family, all the things that most people take for granted. And that's what recovery is for me.